All right, this is my first actual YouTube video. Please bear with me as I'm going to be awkward. But I'm excited to do this. This is video one of recording a band. The band in question is Bean. Here's a quick photo. You're gonna be watching a PowerPoint right now, so if you like to spend your time watching PowerPoints, this is the easiest way I could figure out how to do the setup video for with all the pictures that I had. But there's some audio to play along with all the inputs. If you're into that sort of thing, this is a photo of the room. The only real thing, those monitors aren't plugged into anything. Those are used for practice. This SM is just a talkback for when they were recording. The important thing to note here is the Rhodes, the 88 key Rhodes with the suitcase and its own speaker. We'll talk about that more later. But that was on rent from Alltech Sound out of Avon, Mass. I'll put a link to them in the description. And let's just get started. I'm going to go through every input, which is mostly drums, see what they sounded like. And yeah, this video is geared towards more towards beginners, people who've never done this before, intermediate people, which is what I'd consider myself, looking for new ideas, or if there's any experts who are watching and want to give some feedback, I would totally appreciate it. This is kick drum. A lot of these pictures are not good, but this is the kick drum. I labeled it as kick drum in because it was actually in the drum originally, but there was way too much attack, not enough low end. That's the Telefunken M82. This is what that sounded like. This is the kick drum out microphone. This is a Blue Encore 100, which is what I'm using to record my voice right now. All right, this is one of the probably the worst picture in here. This is the snare top microphone. I tried an SM57 with this drum, wasn't quite enough punch. This is my Audix OM5 that I have painted purple because I use it live, and I took the grill off of it. This is what that sounded like. This is the bottom snare drum mic. I'll probably talk about these a lot. This is most of my SM57s except for one are GLS Audio ES57s, which are clones of Shure SM57s. I personally cannot tell the difference between them, and these are about a third the price or less if you order multiple at a time. I guess I'll put a link to those in the description too. Somebody with a more experienced ear who has used Shure SM57s a lot could probably notice a difference. I can't. So I have about 7 or 8 of these, and I use them for just about everything. And this is the bottom snare drum. Just the phase is flipped manually on my interface on this. All right, this is something I call the kick snare punch microphone. Sometimes I come in from the other side, which I might like a little bit better, but it worked pretty well. It's another one of those GLS 57s. It's mostly to get some more attack from the kick, a little more attack from the snare, which is probably why I like it better on the other side. But this is what it sounded like. You get some more attack from the toms too. Another terrible picture. We're gonna go through the toms. All the toms are Sennheiser MD421s, which are also on rent from Alltech Sound. I love renting microphones. I don't love buying microphones, but here's what the first rack tom sounds like. These are all dry. All these are dry, totally unprocessed. Just the straight recording. For the toms, I picked a few places too. A few places, all from the same song. Here is the second rack tom. For all the rack toms on the Sennheisers, they have a roll off switch where you can roll off some low end. I had that disengaged on all of them. This is the first floor tom I don't have a photo of, but same deal. And this is the lowest floor tom. The headphones were not there during recording. They were on the drummer's head. Here it is. This one had the most bleed. I think it's good to be able to hear how much bleed there was. If you're a total beginner, you can maybe hear how much bleed to expect when recording drums. Um, this one might have had a little bit more than I wanted, but it ended up working out no problem. I'll put a link to the video where I got this idea. This is Kenny Sharretts puts a lot of drum tech, drum recording, just drumming videos on YouTube. Um, this one he calls the cockroach mic, but forgot to take a picture. But it's another one of those GLS 57s is wrapped lightly in a shirt and it's on the ground, just laying on the ground under the floor toms, pointing towards the kick. And this is what that sounds like. It adds some nice, like, kind of rawness and a little more punch. Cymbals, this is the hi-hat microphone. Again, you're going to hear a lot of snare drum in there. So you can kind of get an idea of what to maybe expect for bleed, or if that's more bleed than you would usually expect when recording hi-hats. Let me know in the comments. But this is what that sounded like, and it was able to process this pretty nicely. This is the hi-hat side overhead. Again, out of focus. This is AKG 414. I rented two of these again from Alltech Sound. I used you can't tell, but this is the high pass filter that is all the way up, which I think is, oh, this is the high pass filter, which is at either 100 or 150. I want to say 150. And then this is the pad, so it's set at minus 20 dB. Here's the ride side. Same deal. This one only set at minus 10 dB. And yeah, it is 150 that this is set at. The other, this is probably, renting these is probably the single biggest enhancement that I could make to this drum sound. These are easily my favorite overhead microphones. The Audix ADX51 that I used on the hi-hats is I have more of those that I use for overheads if I'm not renting anything, and they sound clean. There's nothing wrong with them, but the clarity of the 414s is unmatched on drum overheads, or at least in things I've used. Here we go. All right, room mics. I used my SM7B on this side. I call this the right side because with this band, since they're more of like a jammy band, I panned the high toms so they are on the right. So this mic is also called right. I don't honestly know if there's like a default side to call this side, whatever this side is. With other bands, if I'm mixing it from the drummer's perspective, these toms would be on the left, so I would call this microphone the left. But in this recording, this is the right side. And that's how it ended up being mixed. This is what this sounds like. This is again, in this recording, this ended up being the left because I mixed it like from an audience member's perspective. This is my Telefunken CU29. If I had two of these, they would both be used for, I would use two of these as room mics. You'll see it gets a really full and raw sound that the 7B gets as well. 7B is almost a little too dry, and this has a nice color. See what this sounds like. The grill's a little dented. This thing took a spill one time, but the actual microphone's unaffected. So yeah, like I said, if I had two of those, that would use them. I would use two for drum rooms, but I like pairing this microphone with the 7B. I do it for other applications as well, such as acoustic guitar, and get a really nice sound. So these microphones do work well together. Here is the drums overall. This is the same song we've been listening to Song is called Not Monsters, by the way. This is raw. It's just the only mixing done here is just some minor movements of the faders that I did while we were in the studio just for playback. So I haven't even touched them since. This is what they sounded like all together. Skip around to a few different places. And this is a processed version of the drums from a different song that I've already started mixing, done a lot of editing on. Um, I like to say hopefully the editing's done, but since I started mixing, but maybe not. It always ends up being some more. But this is what it sounds like. This is basically entirely processed, minus probably a few minor changes. Same drum set, same session, same band, just a different song. So I should also note too that this band wanted to record as live as possible takes. So you're probably hearing, and you've been probably hearing this whole time, a lot of the Rhodes in the drum microphones. That is something that was a sacrifice we decided to make. If you go back, let me go back to. So if you see the Rhodes is here, both we're gonna get to this in a minute, but it's both DI and we recorded the speaker. If you've never heard one of these 88 key Rhodes with the speakers that they come with in person, it's really something else. So we thought it would be worth it to record, both play through the speaker and record the speaker while the drums were playing in the same room, which ended up, in my opinion, being worth it. Um, you'll hear some of the drums and the Rhodes as well, except where we had to make some punches. But it's a really cool thing to hear in person. So we definitely went with it, and I think it was totally worth it. It's a sacrificial choice to make when you're deciding to kind of go for. Well, you're basically introducing extra bleed, which is sort of more that you have to commit to, more potential problems you could run into. But they want to do as live as possible, and the workflow for to get the best performance of the band is, in my opinion, much more important than just getting as little bleed as possible. The benefits are, in my opinion, marginal. You want a better performance, and you want as good a recording as possible. But if the performance isn't there, then the best recording isn't going to fix that. All right. In keeping with that theme of playing as live as possible. The guitar is the guitarist. His cab is out. Was actually in the control room with me when they were recording, at least recording the initial tracks. So we kind of did talk about this a little more, maybe in another video, but we wanted to nail drum tracks first. But everyone play live. So it's essentially scratch tracks, but usable if we wanted to use them. So the guitar was in the control room with me. The head to his amp is with him in the live room. Um, and we recorded this out here. This is the only actual Shure SM57 I own. This is how we recorded him. What it sounds like. All right, I don't have a picture. We did re-record the guitar across every song. Actually ended up using some of both, or at least I have so far. This is a still in progress project. Um, but we used the CU29, the same that I used for the drum room, which is also what I use for vocals. There's a picture of that later. No picture of this one, but this is what it sounds like. I think you'll notice a lot more detail than with the SM57. All right, I'll flip back and forth here. The bass we recorded direct in so that there was no bleed from the bass doing these live takes, since it was somewhere that we were able to get the bleed out of there doing this. What we did was we recorded it direct in, and then we reamped it. We reamped it through. This is the Eden, I think 8x10, and then the Mark bass 2x10. But I'll play the direct in first. I'm mostly not actually using the direct in when editing and mixing, so it's not really in the final project, but this is what it sounds like. So that was right into the interface, no direct box or anything like that. And then that signal was reamped. This is the Telefunken M82, same as the kick in, and this is what that sounds like. This is one of the 421s on the Mark bass. And this is what this one sounds like. The M82 on the Eden cabinet, you get kind of that velvety low end. And then the Mark bass has so much punch, and the 421s sound so good in that range that we decided to use this. They almost too punchy. You'll hear what it sounds like. Here are both of the microphones together. Both faders are at 0, so they're completely even. No panning, anything like that. Here we go. And again, none of that DI sound. This is just the microphones. All right, we're getting through them here. This is the keyboard setup that's other than the Rhodes. I'm going to play the Rhodes 2. This is the BAE DI box. It has the Nord is in there. The Rhodes DI is in there. I recorded them both mono, not stereo. And then the Moog, which is sitting on the top rack of the keyboard stand, is in like a cheap $25 direct box. We don't need a picture of that, but I will play it. So I'm gonna play some piano sound of the Nord, some of the Rhodes from the same song, and then some of the Moog from a different song. The piano and the Moog are from a different song because it wasn't in this track. The Rhodes DI. And lastly, the Moog. I think it's Moog. I don't know if it's Moog or Moog. We're gonna go with Moog. All right, here is again one of them GLS 57s. This is on the Rhodes speaker. You're gonna hear some that has the drums in there from the live takes, and then there's some from a punch in that we did. Here we go. No sounds of these, but this is the CU29 for the vocal setup. I don't know why I took that picture, but nice photo of the mic, I guess. This is my little mobile sound booth. It works really well. The drummer from this band, Bean, is actually an old friend of mine and is in one of my projects. and he built this for me. Pretty easy setup, but it's foldable, and I can put it in the corner of the room really easy, and it makes the sound dry, and it works pretty well. So this is my main template that I use just as a baseline. It has a sample rate of 48K already input, so I don't have to change that. It has inputs 1 to 8 on my interface, which is a Focusrite Claret, and then it has ADAT 1 to 8 set up, because I always have to look what input digitally is the corresponding number to ADAT, so I don't have to double check that on this. And then I add ADAT 9 to 16 if I need. If I needed to add SPDIF, I would do that manually as well. But that's basically it. Nothing special except a list of inputs and a sample rate. This is the template specific to the band based off that previous template. Everything is just relabeled and in some sort of not important order. Bass at the top, all the drums. You'll see the guitar before re-recording it. So that's the live guitar track. And then you have all the keyboard inputs, even though we didn't need everyone for every song. Just makes it easier to switch in between tracks, and then I'm pretty much ready to go immediately. All right, here I'm gonna put a little. Obviously, I only played the processed version of the drums because there's so many inputs. I figured it was worth it. Everything else you heard was completely dry. Here is one of the tracks that I've been working on for this band, just as a preview. It is getting pretty close to being finished mixing. I don't know about totally finished. There's probably still some things we got to do. We may even have to record some percussion on that. Just as a workflow note, I should not have mixed it all when there's things still left to record. I almost always regret it. But with it just being at least percussion, it's not like it's another guitar track, I should be able to blend that in easily enough. That's more of like a note to self, but here it is. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to make a playlist of these videos, kind of just going through all of this project from start to finish. That was the setup portion. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff if this is something you're interested in. Share it with a friend and leave some comments down below. I appreciate the feedback.